Racist cop arrests black woman, only to discover she's the district attorney. It was a warm afternoon in the quiet suburbs of Ohio. The streets were buzzing with the usual pace of life, but what was about to unfold would change the way many saw justice and equality. This wasn't just a story of an encounter between a police officer and a citizen. It was a pivotal moment that challenged deep-seated injustice and biases in law enforcement. If you've ever questioned authority, if you've ever wondered how one moment can inspire change, then this story is for you. Keep watching to discover how one woman's composure in the face of injustice transformed a routine traffic stop into a movement that shook the nation. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments. District Attorney Maria Campbell was driving home from a community outreach event, her mind still preoccupied with the discussions she had had with local youth about their futures and the justice system. Little did she know, her own faith in the system she worked tirelessly to uphold was about to be tested in a way she had never imagined. Maria's car, a black Range Rover, turned onto Elmwood Drive. She drove carefully, as she always did, maintaining the speed limit. But behind her, a patrol car appeared, its presence sudden and ominous. The lights atop the cruiser began to flash red and blue, cutting through the afternoon calm. Maria glanced at her rearview mirror, confusion flashing across her face. She knew she hadn't violated any traffic laws. Still, she turned on her signal, eased her car to the side of the road, and brought it to a stop. Her heart beat steadily, not with fear, but with a cautious awareness of what might come next. The officer approached her car, his footsteps heavy on the asphalt. His hand rested on the holster of his taser, an unnecessary gesture of dominance. Maria rolled down her window just enough to engage without compromising her safety. She greeted him politely, her tone even and composed. "Good afternoon, officer. May I ask why I'm being stopped?" she inquired, her voice calm yet firm. The officer's eyes scanned her face, his expression unreadable but his demeanor cold. To him, she was just another black woman behind the wheel of a nice car, an anomaly that demanded scrutiny. "License and registration," he said curtly, his tone brooking no argument. Maria complied, reaching deliberately for her wallet. "Of course," she said. "It's in my glove compartment. I'll need to open it." The officer stiffened, his posture suddenly tense. "Move slowly," he ordered, as though expecting her to lunge for a weapon. Maria paused, maintaining eye contact with him, as she carefully retrieved the documents. She handed them over, her hand steady. "Here you go." "Again, officer, may I ask why I'm being stopped?" His response was dismissive, almost as though he hadn't heard her. He glanced at the documents for no more than a second before tossing them back through the window. "Step out of the vehicle," he demanded, his voice harsher now. Maria's brows furrowed, her confusion giving way to a quiet determination. "Is there a reason for this request, officer? Am I being detained?" The officer's patience snapped. "Do I need to repeat myself? Step out of the car." At that moment, Maria felt the full weight of the moment. She knew she could comply and de-escalate the situation, but she also knew that her compliance might not change the outcome. People like her, black, composed, professional, were not exempt from the biases that often turned routine stops into tragedies. But Maria wasn't just anyone. She was the district attorney, and she understood both the power of the law and the weight of her position. Sighing softly, she opened the door and stepped out, her hands visible, and her posture calm. Around her, passing cars slowed, their drivers craning their necks to watch the interaction. The officer motioned for her to turn around, his hand hovering dangerously close to his taser. "Place your hands behind your back," he commanded. "Officer," Maria began, her voice steady but laced with authority. "I have complied with your requests. I have shown you my identification. If you continue down this path, you are making this serious mistake." But he wasn't listening. To him, she was just another figure to subdue, another subject to control. At this point, the story could have gone two ways, silence or action, But what happened next proved the importance of standing up to systemic injustice. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to decide between speaking up and staying silent? Keep reading to see how her choice changed everything. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed through the air as the officer secured them tightly around Maria's wrists. The cuffs bit into her skin, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she maintained her composure, her breathing slow and measured. She knew this wasn't just about her. It was about something far bigger. "You're under arrest," the officer said brusquely. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Maria turned her head slightly, her gaze meeting his. "I suggest you call your supervisor, officer," she said calmly. "You're making a very serious mistake." Her words carried weight, but the officer was too consumed by his own authority to register them. He guided her toward the patrol car, his grip firm but unnecessarily rough. By now, a small crowd had begun to gather, their murmurs growing louder with each passing second. Several onlookers had pulled out their phones, recording the encounter. As Maria was placed in the back seat of the patrol car, a young woman approached the scene, her phone held high. "That's Maria Campbell," she whispered to another bystander. "She's the district attorney." The officer heard the murmur but dismissed it as nonsense. "Keep moving, folks," he barked at the onlookers. But the whispers grew louder, spreading like wildfire through the crowd. Inside the patrol car, Maria sat silently, her thoughts racing. She knew this incident was being documented, and she knew it wouldn't end here. She wasn't just another victim of injustice profiling. She was someone with the power and platform to turn this injustice into a catalyst for change. Minutes later, a second patrol car pulled up, and out stepped the officer's supervisor. His expression shifted the moment he saw Maria through the window of the cruiser. "Officer, release her immediately," the supervisor ordered, his tone urgent. The arresting officer hesitated, confusion and panic flashing across his face. "What? Why?" "Because," the supervisor snapped, "you just arrested the district attorney of this county." The officer's face turned ashen, his confidence crumbling under the weight of his mistake. He fumbled with the keys to the handcuffs, his hands trembling as he unlocked them. Maria stepped out of the car, her composure intact, but her eyes blazing with resolve. "Officer," she said, addressing the man who had arrested her, "do you understand what you've done?" He stammered, unable to form a coherent response. Around them, the crowd had grown, their phones capturing every word. Maria turned to the supervisor. "I expect a full report of this incident on my desk by tomorrow morning," she said firmly. "And I will be pursuing this matter to ensure it never happens again. Not to me, and not to anyone else." The supervisor nodded, his face etched with both embarrassment and respect. As Maria walked back to her car, the crowd erupted into applause. She didn't acknowledge it, her focus unwavering. This wasn't a victory. It was only the beginning of a much larger fight. The video of the incident spread like wildfire on social media. People were outraged, not just because a high-ranking official had been profiled, but because her experience highlighted a systemic issue faced by countless others without her platform or resources. Maria Campbell held a press conference the next day. Standing at the podium, she addressed the nation. "What happened to me happens to thousands of black men and women every single day. The difference is, I have a title and a platform. Many others do not. But today, I speak for them. This isn't just about me. This is about justice, accountability, and the urgent need for reform." Her words struck a chord. Protesters flooded the streets, demanding stricter measures against racial profiling. Activists shared their own stories, using her case as a rallying cry for change. Maria's story became a beacon of hope, but the fight was far from over. Have you ever witnessed or experienced an injustice? Sharing stories like this can help amplify voices that need to be heard. The officer involved faced disciplinary action and was suspended pending an investigation. But Maria Campbell wasn't interested in retribution. She wanted systemic change. She used the momentum of her case to push for legislative reform. Years later, Maria Campbell reflected on that day. What had started as an act of injustice became a turning point for the nation. Her story was taught in schools, her legislation became a model for other states, and her courage continued to inspire future generations. In an interview, she said, "I didn't ask to be a symbol of change, but when the opportunity came, I knew I had to rise to the occasion." My hope is that one day, stories like mine will be a thing of the past. Maria Campbell's journey didn't just reveal the flaws in the system. It showed the strength of resilience, the power of a platform, and the possibility of progress. As you close this chapter, ask yourself, what role will you play in building a more just and equitable world? Drop your thoughts in the comment. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel.